The Kabbalion references paradoxes in the following way. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths, and all paradoxes may be reconciled. Good and evil are but the poles of the same thing. Now today, I want to talk to you guys about the Janus Paradox. This is an idea I've been thinking about for a while. I got some notes here. If you're listening to this, I got notes in front of me. Janus was the Roman god of beginnings, ends, doorways, time, and duality. So what this means to me, the reason why I've named this idea, I guess you could call it the Janus Paradox, is because right now we're in a very interesting time in human history. The duality of having everything at our fingertips and having everything at our fingertips is both detrimental and incredibly constructive for mankind. And I'll tell you what I mean. First, I'll talk about the positives of what's happening today. We live in objectively the best time in human history. Most people in America have plumbing. 65% of people, earthly, 65% of global people have access to the internet, meaning that 65% of the human population is now connected. Pretty major. We can solve some pretty big problems, and we have. It's the easiest time in history to make money, to find your passion, to find a love, to connect with lost family members, things like this. There's a funny, I guess, frame from Zach Tellender and Chris Williamson. I was watching their podcast, and Zach told a story about how he was at a vending machine and he put $1 in and a bottle of Coke came out, or a can of Coke came out, and he said, "Dude, this rules. I can't believe that somebody made this machine for me to feed $1 into and for, a bottle of Coke to come out. This rules. This is sick." And Chris Williamson sort of expanded on this idea, and he called it the miracle of modernity. And I have later expanded on this idea, and I call it value cubes, and I'll talk about that now. The idea of value cubes basically states that I can wake up in the morning, assuming that I'm a business owner, an online business owner. I can wake up in the morning and I check my crazy device, my crazy fucking black box, basically, and it will notify me, you have helped X amount of people, and for that help, you are rewarded with value cubes, or whatever currency you use. Now, I may choose to spend these value cubes in whatever way I see fit. I can press buttons on my black box and have somebody deliver my favorite food to me. I can press buttons on my black box and then drive to the airport and have a flight ready to go. I can press buttons on my black box and get a TV or a computer or whatever, basically whatever the fuck I want, delivered to my doorstep. And I feel like a lot of people take this for granted. I think the number one, if not one of the highest and most prominent reasons for human flourishing in the past 20, 30, 40, 20, 30, I should say, years has been the internet. And we treat it like, it's dirt under our feet. This is just kind of what we do now. We all take it for granted. And I think that it's miraculous is what it is, right? You are watching this or listening to this on a little tiny computer, whether it fits in your pocket or sits on your desk or on your lap or whatever. I'm talking into a camera and you are listening to me. This is anything short. This is nothing short of miraculous, in my opinion. If you went back 100 years and you said, yeah, I'm listening to this guy on this black box, people would look at you like you're a fucking witch, is the deal. So where the duality comes in is, yes, this is the best time for human flourishing, generally. 65% of humans are connected via this invisible web, tethered to these weird technological metal box things. But also, this is the most difficult time in history for a lot of people, subjectively. Objectively, best time in history. Subjectively, it's the hardest. Let me explain. So 65% of humans are connected via this non-existent, non-physical web that we call the internet. Why is it that my generation, Gen Z, is the loneliest generation statistically in human history? That doesn't make any sense to me. If we have this connection tool, because that's basically what it is, it's a tool to create connection, why is it that we are seeing a massive decline in relationships, both socially and romantically? Why is that? There was a study done by Harvard, and it was an 85-year-long study that basically said the number one predictor for health and happiness, which are two pretty major things, is your relationships, the number of them and the quality of them, not your cholesterol, not the amount of money you make. It's your relationships. Knowing this, why is it that all the people in my generation, and most likely people in the generations prior and the next generations to come, are in this loneliness epidemic? The U.S. Surgeon General literally ruled it an epidemic. I think it's because the atomization of the community and the family has occurred. And this is a big concept to boil down into this little tiny point, but bear with me. Excuse me. In hunter-gatherer times, we had a community, right? There was, not many of us, probably 50 in a tribe or community or whatever. And everybody hung out and everybody did shit together. If you were a guy, you went out and you hunted. And if you were a lady, you kind of stayed around and you did the lady stuff and you did hunter gatherer stuff and you gathered berries or whatever the fuck. Then the Industrial Revolution came and the atom family started, the atomic family, which is mom and dad, 2 kids. Mom stays home with the kids, dad goes out and works. And it's similar to the hunter-gatherer dynamic where mom takes care of the children and dad goes out and hunts. But in this frame, I guess you could say, it's more metaphorical. And then not too long after that, relatively, we started to see that both parents have started working. And then the kids are raised by whom? Because mom and dad are at work. Who's left? Well, you have teachers and you have the internet. And teachers are great. I had some great teachers. I also had some shitty teachers in my day. But the internet is an interesting thing because it's assuming you don't have parental controls on whatever device you have, which I do not recommend. If you're a young kid, say 11, you have basically complete access to all of the world's knowledge at your fingertips. And you have complete access to some of the darkest addictions in the world at your fingertips. Right? So it's a pretty stark contrast. It's a pretty dark duality we have, because on one side of the spectrum, we have young kids that are addicted to stimulation, online stimulation. And on the other side, we have young kids that are making 20, 30, 50 grand a month off the exact same device. What's different here? Well, obviously there's a, user error situation happening. But I do believe that technology, specifically the internet and also AI, is one of the greatest things that humanity's ever been given, truthfully. And it's also one of the scariest things that humanity's ever been given. It's similar to the King Midas story, if you guys are familiar with this. King Midas was like, I want everything I touch to be turned into gold. And Wizard Rumpelstiltskin guy was like, okay, everything that you touch is turned into gold now. And he touched his wife turned into gold. And he's like, oh, fuck, this sucks. Ask and you shall receive, things like this. 42% of 11-year-olds in the US have an iPhone. Pretty cool. You can text mom when you're at your friend's house. You can text your friend when you're at mom's house and things like this. You can stay connected and up to date. You can even learn things on YouTube, hey? The iPhone came out in 2007, so the first generation to be born into this technological wave where everybody has a computer in their pocket is people born in 2004, like I was, 2005, 2006, 2007. And the effect that this has had on our brains is really interesting because in the same way that when the calculator was released and developed, or I guess developed and released in that order, everybody thought, well, if you use a calculator, you're going to get stupid because you're not going to do math anymore and then you won't know how to do math. Obviously, that premise was incorrect, but it wasn't all the way incorrect. I can do some form of mental math, but I can't do incredibly complex equations in my head that maybe somebody, 200 years prior could because they didn't have access to a calculator. Now, in the same way, we have access to all of the world's information, all of the research that's ever been conducted, that's been released, all of the historical findings, all of the archaeological sites, all of the, all of humanity's findings are in our pocket at the speed of light at any given moment, which means that we don't really have to memorize things anymore. Right? Now, in a similar way, you could say, well, since you don't have to memorize things, you will no longer use your memory, therefore you will become stupid. The same argument as the calculator, which again is built on a false premise, but not all the way. I think that using your phone, your computer, technology as a servant, meaning when I pick up my phone, I know exactly what I want it to do. I want to learn why when I'm falling, time slows down. I want to learn why booby traps are called booby traps and things like this. I know exactly what task I want it to perform for me when I pick it up. I think that using technology as a servant is the highest, most useful form of interacting with this crazy, miraculous thing that we have. And on the flip side of that, if you if technology uses you as a servant, if it is your master, you have no idea what you want when you pick up your phone. It takes you on this 4-hour long rabbit hole and you learn about nothing and you're basically just stimulating your brain with a bunch of short form content. It's probably not great, right? It's probably not great. Moral of the story is you either master your technology or you will be mastered by it. There was a stat that said, and I'm not sure how true this is, but it sounds true to me. The average American spends 7 hours a day on screens, and this includes computers, phones, TVs, and they spend 6.8 hours on average sleeping. The average American spends more time on their screens than they do sleeping. And granted, a lot of people work on their computers and stuff like this, but the effects that has on the human brain over a long enough time horizon, it can't be studied at this moment because we just don't have enough data, right? But I can tell you, I don't think it's that great. Call me crazy, right? So, going back to the initial thought that I opened this up with, everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites, extremes meet, all truths are but half-truths, and all paradoxes may be reconciled. If there's a 15-year-old who is in the depths of addiction to pornography, short-form content, anything that is possible via this technology, and there is the exact same 15-year-old who is making 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a month on the exact same device, is it the device that is inherently evil or inherently good? I think not. I think that the user is, well, I shouldn't say I think that the user is inherently evil because I don't believe that. I think that the user is the origination point. I think that much like money amplifies who you already are, if you're a nice guy and you get a lot of money, you'll be a very nice guy. If you're an asshole, you get a lot of money, you'll be a very big asshole. I think that technology does the same thing. If you're a smart guy, you'll probably get a whole lot smarter by, listening to people like Alain de Botton or Dr. Andrew Huberman or Dr. Mike Israetel or any of these people. If you're a very nice guy, you'll probably become very, very nice and leave nice comments on people's videos. If you're a very mean guy, the exact opposite. You'll probably send some people some DMs that are not so nice and maybe some things that'll get you on a watch list. Who knows? I think the idea that technology expands who you already are is absolutely true. Now, to put a bow on this whole good, bad, paradox, Janus thing that I'm talking about here, I want to give you, I don't know, less of an example and more of a, no, I suppose it is an example. I want to give you an example. You wake up and, most people's first instinct when they wake up is to grab their phone. And some people, it's been a big thing on social media. You want to go get, 15 minutes of sunlight, whatever. Some people do that. I don't do that shit. I wake up, I grab my phone. I am now faced with a choice. I can either consume or I can create. That is the fundamental choice here. And, if you extrapolate this, big word, I don't really know the definition. If you extrapolate this over a long enough time horizon, the idea of a separation happening, a sort of schism, if you will, between the creators and the consumers will eventually lead to two very different worlds. Now, this is sort of out there concept, but I would love it if you could bear with me. There's a world in which you pick up your phone, you create. For that, you are rewarded with value cubes that you can spend to make your material life better. I make a video, I go, ha ha ha, this is so great, oh my god, ha, ha, ha. People find value from it in whatever way, shape, or form. I am then rewarded with value cubes because I have provided value to the masses. And then I can buy a new couch. I can buy a ring for my wife. I can buy a plane ticket for my kids. I can buy whatever to make my material, physical life better. I can do something in the non-physical internet ether to create a higher quality of life for my physical existence. Pretty cool. On the other side, the consumer side, wake up, consume, 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 consume. You have input so much information that your brain becomes scrambled. And because of that, your material existence, your physical life, your quality of life drops. The more time you spend scrolling on your phone, the less time you have to spend time with loved ones. The less time you have to work out or, go to the grocery store and eat right. All of these things. I think the world needs more, and this may sound a little, poofy, I guess. I believe that the world needs more creators rather than influencers. I think that the term influencer, from a definition perspective, is correct. You see somebody with 1 million followers and they say, hey, this brand of creatine gummies is great. This brand is bad. You may believe them. But I think that rather than searching for influence, which is a very powerful thing, a la Robert Cialdini, I think trying to create anything, whether it's music, art, videos that people watch on their phones, creating a new form of technology, something, that is the highest, brightest future of humanity. And what's interesting about this, I alluded to AI in the beginning, which is a very hot topic, no pun intended, because it drinks a lot of water. It's a very hot topic now in the social media world. There's a lot of people saying, well, it's taking people's jobs and it's doing all these bad things. And I believe that it's the exact same as the internet and technology. It's neither good nor bad. It exemplifies who you already are. If you're an artist and you are incredibly against the idea of ever using AI and I will never, because my art comes from my soul and it can never be molested by this weird technology. I think that you will be eclipsed by the people who figure out a way to use it to expand on what is in their heart of hearts, their artistic, you know, insides. I um I have written down here addictions or actualization. And, that's kind of where we're at. There's a separation happening. And this isn't some far off dystopian future where on one side there's going to be the people in the pods eating the bugs and, own nothing and being happy like Charles Schwab wants. And on the other side, there's the high elf like wearing all white with their ethereal robes that, you know, stomp on the ground, and all of the underground troglodyte people that eat the bugs are listening. They're going, oh my God, they're walking around. I don't think that's going to happen. What I think is happening right now is that separation is occurring. It is occurring. And it's not going to be the high elf thing where people are underground or whatever. It's going to be very subtle. It's going to be very gradual. I forget which historian said this, but they said the fall of the Roman Empire happened gradually and then suddenly. And I think the same thing will happen with this great schism, this great separation. I think that if you wake up every day and you try to create a world of your own making, and what I mean by that is I wake up, I do what I want to do, I provide value to people, and thus I make my material life better. I think that it will happen gradually and then suddenly. I think if you do the opposite, you wake up and you consume, consume, consume. I watch a meaningless video here, I watch a meaningless video there. It will happen gradually, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, you'll look around and you'll go, oh my God, my reality has been shaped by algorithms, basically. I, yeah, it's a pretty, you know, pretty big deal, in my opinion. I don't know. You could be watching this and be like, I don't care. You could be listening to this and be like, whatever. I don't even care. And it's, I can sense the irony here that I'm making a video about, creating or consuming while you're consuming my video, but whatever. It's true, I think. I, again, I think that this is not some far off dystopian, weird, uh, George Orwell future. I think this is happening now, and that we, the individual, you, I, are at the center of this. Every choice that we make is going to eventually compound gradually. And then suddenly we will either wake up in a world of our own making in a flower field full of little fairies, or we'll wake up in a garbage dump and we'll go, holy shit, how did I get here? So to sum this all up, I don't think technology is evil. I don't think it's good. I don't think that humans are good. I don't think that humans are evil. I think that humans are, and whatever you are, is going to be expanded and exploded by the technology you choose to use. I think that When you choose to pick up your phone and scroll, you're going to become that. I think that when you choose to pick up your phone and create, I think that you are going to become that. So, yeah, this is happening, whether you like it or not, and you are at the center of it.